Good afternoon, everyone, and happy National Farmers Day. Thank you for joining us for a live dairy tour. I'm your host, Callie Akabishin, and I work on behalf of dairy farmers in the Southeast. As a registered dietitian, I help teach people about delicious dairy and connect them with the amazing farmers who make it possible. Today, our team is at Paulson Family Farm with dairy farmer Karl Paulson in Rockingham County, Virginia. Karl is the second generation on the dairy farm that his parents bought in 1991. This farm was actually where his parents met one summer while they both were working on the dairy. Who knew a dairy farm could be so romantic? Now Karl and his wife Marie, along with his mom and brother, run the farm. I can't wait for Karl to give you the behind-the-scenes look at how they produce nutritious milk. Joining Karl on Zoom today are some student athletes from the Virginia High School League. Since chocolate milk is often recommended for recovery after exercise and is the official protein beverage of the Virginia High School League, we thought it'd be fitting to take some high school athletes out to a dairy farm so they can see where chocolate milk begins. So they're here today to share some insight from their on-farm experience. Before we get started, I want to be sure you know how to get your questions through to us on this live tour. So if you're joining on Zoom, use the Q&A feature. If you're watching on Facebook, put your questions in the chat or comment section. We're going to answer as many as we can, so please don't be shy. The tour is much better when you ask questions and we talk about the things that you want to know. So we really want to hear from you. On that note, I'm going to turn it over to Karl on the farm. So where are we starting, Karl?
Hey guys, welcome to our farm. So today we're starting in the most interesting part of the farm, I think. This is the nursery. So this is where the babies are raised. They're kept here for the first 60 days of their lives, and they're given really specific attention. My mom's in charge of the babies. She's got the best mothering instinct, so that's her job. She feeds them milk twice a day, keeps a watchful eye over them, feeds them grain and water, and makes sure that they have a really good start to their lives.
And so I see you've got the baby calves there. They look so cute. Talk to us a little bit. So you said they're there for the first 60 days. Where do they kind of go after that 60 days? What does the rest of their kind of first few months look like?
Yeah, so this group that I'm in right now, these are a little bit older. They're about 50 days old. So they're only about 10 days away from stop getting milk. They've really started eating a lot of grain. We feed this pelleted grain here. This is a really expensive feed that helps them grow really quickly. And so anyway, when they're done receiving milk, we'll move them into groups of 20 to 30. So right now there's a group of 5 in here. Calves tend to grow better when they have friends. So we keep them in groups of 5. When they leave this barn, they'll actually go to a slightly larger facility where we'll group them 20 to 30. They'll stay there till they're about 4 months old, and then we move them to pasture, and they'll consume a lot of grass, continue to get a supplemental feed, but they'll stay on grass until they're almost 15 months old, until we bring them back to the farm about 9 months before they enter the milking herd.
So they get a little bit of vacation before they start work, it sounds like.
That's right. Yeah. So a cow lives for about 2 years before they have their first baby. That's really normal, to have their first baby at 2 years old. So it's kind of a relaxing 2 years. We pamper them. This is a really good facility. They're really clean and dry. And the nice thing about having a facility like this and keeping the calves separate is, on the hottest day of the year, we've got a good fan in here to keep them cool. And if there's a blizzard outside, we can keep them really warm and comfortable in here too. So on a lot of farms, they give the babies a lot of attention and try to take really good care of them, because that's going to set them up for a really productive, healthy life.
Sure, that makes sense. I know that a question that I get a lot and that we get a lot on these tours is, why are the babies, or why are the calves separated from the moms? Maybe you could speak a little bit to that. I think you alluded to that, talking about how they need that special care, but could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, I mean, really simply, we're dairy farmers, and we harvest that milk. So we milk the cows. They're in a herd where they can be milked every day, and we can collect that milk. We do feed these babies the mother's milk. So they get whole milk from the herd. And in this kind of environment, by keeping them separate, we can ensure that they're really healthy. We can keep eyes on them and make sure that nobody gets sick or anything like that. They're safe in here. It's really protected, and they really love us. So these we're interacting. You can see they're chewing on my shirt right now, and they love licking and playing and really friendly with us. So we're kind of like the foster parent for these calves. We take care of them and try to do a really good job. The calves and the cows don't really, they don't think like humans, so they don't really think about the fact that they're not with the original mother anymore. They kind of take us on as their mother. And the cows, we're really in tune with our cows, and we can sense stress. We know when an animal is stressed out, so we keep a careful eye out for that. And it's generally not a problem with separating the calf from the cow. There's a very stress-free event, believe it or not. To a lot of people, that'd be really surprising. Another thing that we do is we work hand in hand with a veterinarian. A licensed veterinarian comes to this farm once a week, and he sees all the aspects of the farm, not just the baby cows, but the adult cows, all the animals. And we work closely with them to make sure that these animals are healthy and happy, and are going to have a productive life, and that we're treating them how they should be treated.
Sure. And I one kind of fun question is, do you ever get twins on the farm?
We certainly do. It's rare. Out of 100 babies born, 2 or 3 might be sets of twins. Twins are the same as the other calves that are born just as singles, that are slightly smaller. The favorite cow on the herd was a twin. Her name is Shrimpy. She's an adult cow now. She's actually close to 9 years old. She was born premature. The twins were born premature, so we raised them kind of separately and special, and she became really, really tame. So the favorite cow on the farm is actually a twin. It's convenient that you asked that.
That's funny, Shrimpy. I like that. Usually we show calves towards the end of our tours. So Farmer Karl is really spoiling us today by starting us off with them. So we're going to we are going to make our way over to our next stop. But before we do that, I'm going to check in with our special guest student athletes, and I want to introduce them to the group. So joining us today, we have Micah, Austin, Reagan, and Harley. So they're going to kind of be chiming in, giving their input on what it was like to be on a dairy farm. So my first question for Micah and Reagan are, can you share with the group what your favorite part about visiting the dairy farm was?
My favorite part about visiting the dairy farm was seeing the calves and being educated on the process of getting milk from a cow to a factory to basically your home.
Sure. Had you ever been to a dairy farm before?
I have.
Oh, you had been to? Yep. Oh, that's awesome. Was it a family farm or?
Well, kind of.
Okay.
Goes back a little bit.
Okay. Nice. What about you, Micah? What was your favorite part about visiting the dairy farm?
I pretty much stuck on what she said. The calves was most definitely the best part.
Yeah.
And, learning about all the nutritional facts about milk is really cool.
Sure.
that was nice to know.
Sure. Did either of you guys go in and pet the calves when you were there?
Yeah.
Yes, that's so fun.
Yeah, they're real cute. Well, awesome. I always love to hear people's different takeaways when visiting dairy farms because I feel like everyone has a different takeaway. But it was such a treat to be able to have the student athletes out to the farm beforehand to meet Farmer Karl and see his hardworking dairy cows. So I believe we have arrived at our next stop on the farm, or we're making our way over there. And this next stop, we're going to be talking about the milking process, what happens in the milking parlor, and the tank room. You guys got to see the milking parlor and the tank room, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Were you surprised by how much technology was going on in there?
Yeah, it was super cool.
Yeah. I know they don't have it on this farm, but on some farms they have even like robotic milkers where the cows kind of go on themselves and they go on a carousel and then they move on with their day. So it's really cool to see all the technology, and Farmer Karl will talk a little bit more about that as we get to different parts on the tour. So I think we've made it to the tank room here. Hopefully we got a little bit of exercise there, I think. So talk to us a little bit about the milking process, Farmer Karl.
Yeah, so we're in the tank room. This is where the milk is stored on this farm. So we milk 350 cows, and 350 cows make about 3,500 gallons of milk every day. So this is a 4,000 gallon tank. We fill it almost every day. The milk truck comes, picks it up. This milk is cooled. It's refrigerated very cold. It's actually, right now it's 42 degrees, and they're milking right now. By the time the milking's over, it'll be about 37 degrees. So even colder than your refrigerator. And so that milk is hauled fresh every day to the plant. That plant's actually located in North Carolina, so it does travel a little ways. And that's where it's processed, bottled, and then sent to your grocery store. Most dairy farms don't process their own milk. That's a really rare occurrence. And if you do buy your milk from a farmer that actually has processing, we really encourage that. But that's not everybody gets to do that. Most people go to a grocery store. So the milk's not processed here. So this is the final product for us. We produce the milk, cool it, and then it's picked up and out of our hands. But in this parlor, it's a really modern parlor. We milk 12 on each side. A milking takes about 4 hours to milk 350 cows. Now, if you hand milk cows, hand milking one cow would take about 45 minutes because every one of our cows gives about 10 gallons of milk every single day. So you'd be really tired. You'd have to have an army of people to milk that many cows. This automation makes it really quick and easy on the cows. It takes about 10 minutes. So like I said, we milk 3 times a day. So a cow's only working for about 30 minutes and then her work's over for the day. So it's not a very long process. Cows enter into the parlor. They disinfect the teats. They wipe them clean. They attach the milker. Like I said, takes about 10 minutes. And then they put a disinfectant on after they're done milking and let that cow go. And those steps are really critical because it keeps her healthy. It keeps the milk really clean. So the milk's not actually touched by any human hands. It keeps a really clean product. And we get judged on how clean and how healthy that milk is. So they take samples every day that they pick it up. They take a sample. They look for fat and protein. They look for bacteria and even things you wouldn't think about, like color and taste of the milk, they judge us on. So we take a lot of pride in our product. That also comes with some big responsibilities. So milk is antibiotic free, and you can't sell milk with antibiotics in it, but we do use antibiotics in our cows sometimes. So the way that process works is when a cow is sick and I treat her with antibiotics, those antibiotics take a certain amount of time to leave her body. So let's say 4 or 5 days. Well, that milk for 4 or 5 days can't be sold. We have to dump that. And then she can, go back into the system and be milked into the parlor. So here on the farm, we have a lot of checks. And then when this milk leaves the farm, they check it again and again every single day to make sure that we're sending a really clean, responsibly produced product.
Yeah, I think I always kind of mention that as a dietitian, I think there's a lot of confusion with foods just around the fact that labeling is different. So there's no like uniform standards. So with milk, some jugs of milk say antibiotic free, some don't. And I think that's where a lot of the confusion arises. But if you talk to a farmer, if you look at what the laws show, you cannot sell milk that contains antibiotics. So really that's just a labeling difference, not the fact that the milk, some contains antibiotics and some doesn't.
Yeah, that's right. And it's been that way for a long, long time. It wasn't a situation where people are drinking antibiotic milk. That hasn't been the case. And, it's really expensive for us to make that mistake. So we make sure that it doesn't happen, but just in case, they test it every single day and it's not an issue at all. So there is all milk is antibiotic free if you're buying it at a grocery store, and it doesn't really matter what the jug says.
And you said that your milk goes to North Carolina to be processed, which is, still pretty nearby. What does it turn into? Do you know?
So the milk in the Southeast stays as fluid milk, so drinking milk, the milk you'd buy in gallon jug in the grocery store, primarily from Virginia down to Florida, all the way over to Missouri. All that milk pretty much stays as fluid milk. That's because there's less cows here per person than there are in other parts of the country. So in Wisconsin or California, where they have a lot of extra milk, that's where they make the cheese and the butter and the yogurt. And then here, where we don't have quite enough milk for all the people, it just stays as fluid milk. And that kind of explains why the milk shifts toward this part of the country. But if on every jug of milk that you buy, there's a label on it that actually tells you what plant it was produced at and what state it comes from. So you can find out how local your milk is. You just have to enter that into there's a website that you can look up and tells you where your milk's actually coming from.
That's right. I just learned that our Virginia State Dairymen's just bought that website and they're revamping it. And it's called Where's Your Milk? Yeah, where'syourmilkfrom.com or something like that. Mm-hmm. So very neat. So I know that we kind of talked about the high school athletes, but I kind of had no idea before I visited Dairy Farm how much technology was involved in the process and how many steps are in place. So we're going to move on to our next stop, and we have a poll question coming on. But I just want to kind of talk about how it can be so easy to walk into a grocery store and forget about all the work that happens before our favorite foods hit grocery store shelves. And days like today, like National Farmer Day, is a great time to kind of take a second, sit back, and learn more about what's involved in producing our food. So thanks to dairy farmers like Karl, we have access to all the nutrition that dairy foods provide, including milk, which has an impressive 13 essential nutrients in just one cup. So we're going to do this poll. I think we have some poll answers coming in. This is a fun poll question. So as we wait for all the answers to come in, Austin and Harley, we're going back to our student athletes here. Talk to me. What's your favorite dairy food?
My favorite dairy food would have to be ice cream.
Okay, ice cream. What kind of ice cream?
My favorite type of ice cream is chocolate chip cookie dough.
Chocolate chip. Okay, that's a pretty good answer. What about you, what about you, Austin?
Mine's definitely chocolate milk.
Chocolate milk. Okay. I think we'll learn a little bit later maybe why it's chocolate milk. I heard the football team uses that quite often. Is that correct?
Yeah, we use it after every workout. So.
Awesome. All right, Farmer Karl, what's your favorite dairy food? Uh-oh, we've got him muted. Here we go.
I eat ice cream every single night, so I'm going to have to go with that. I do enjoy a big glass of chocolate milk, but ice cream every single night. And I think my favorite flavor has to be salted caramel on vanilla. It's just to die for. Love it.
Awesome. Yeah, ice cream was, won by 69%. Milk and chocolate milk came in at second at 19%. So that's pretty good. I feel like it's hard for me to choose a favorite. Ice cream, obviously, who doesn't like ice cream? I also really like yogurt. They're all good. So now that we've talked about our favorite foods, we're going to get back to the farm and learn about what cows' favorite foods are. And where are we now on the farm?
All right, so we're in front of a couple grain tanks. This is where a lot of our concentrate or carbohydrates for the cows are stored. And in front of me on this table, I have all the ingredients that we use here on the farm. It's not just one or two like you would think. So we've got lots of things here, and it starts with plants that we harvest. So over here on this side of the table, we have dry hay. That would be used for a lot of the heifers or cows that aren't making milk right now. We have corn silage. So if you see a field of corn near a dairy farm, usually they don't just combine the corn, the grain part. They actually harvest the entire plant, chop it up into fine pieces there, and we store that. And then this is a grass silage. I know it's brown, but this originally was green, and through the fermentation process, it turns brown, and cows love this. So these are our primary forages. Forages are plant-based feeds. And then we have lots of concentrates. This is corn, ground corn that we grew here on our farm. This is roasted soybeans. These are soybeans that go through a heat process. They actually taste a little bit like popcorn when they're done, ironically. This is a mineral and supplement that we feed our cows. We feed just a little bit of this to make sure they get their vitamins and minerals. This is soybean meal. And as we move to this side of the table, a lot of these feeds are feeds that other industries use, and then they have a byproduct, a waste product that they don't know what to do with. And we found that some of these waste products are really good feeds for cows. They can actually turn this into milk. Otherwise, these feeds would be wasted. They'd go into landfills, or it produces an income stream for those businesses. So this is distiller's grain. And if you know anything about distilling alcohol, like a bourbon, they use grains this is the byproduct. It's really high in protein. Cows love it. This is canola pellets. So if your parents cook with canola, something on the stove, the byproduct of that is just the shell of the canola, and they pellet this and we feed it to the cows. This is really good protein. These are soy hull pellets. So when they make soy oil, they make lots of human food out of soy. Well, there's a byproduct from that. And this is a really good fiber for the cows, really easily digestible. And we take all the ingredients. We have a tractor that pulls a cart that has a mixer in it, and we can combine all this together and mix it up and feed it to the cows. And we don't just put in a little bit of everything based on what we feel like doing. We work with a nutritionist who his only job is to decide what our dairy cows need based on how much milk they produce, what time of year it is, what size the cows are. And we come up with a very specific combination of all these ingredients to meet their nutritional needs. So we have lots of partnerships here on the farm. I mentioned the veterinarian before, a nutritionist. We have to grow all this food. So this corn and grass silage, we work with an agronomist who knows how much manure we need to apply to the field in order to get good yields and good quality and when to harvest these things. So we have a lot of partnerships that kind of allow us to be good at what we do.
Sure. And I think it's so cool to see everything that's upcycled. So even like, I know some farms, I mean, there's so many ingredients that you're upcycling and turning into milk, but also like, even like the remnants of, cotton hulls. So like what you make your t-shirts out of. I mean, there's so much that kind of comes full circle thanks to dairy cows.
Yeah, and that depends on what area in the country you are. So if you're in Florida, if you're a dairy farmer in Florida, you'll use citrus pulp. The byproduct of making orange juice. Well, you can feed that to cows. In Idaho, where they make sugar beets for just table sugar, you can feed the byproduct of that to cows. So it might be area specific. Here we have lots of soybeans and dried distiller's grains. We feed a lot of that. So farmers adapt to their local community, what they're producing there in order to feed the cows.
Sure. And it's so cool to learn about the cow nutritionist. It's kind of like sports RDs for our high school athletes, or when, for athletes, they have their own kind of dietitians, it sounds like.
Yeah. And cows are high performing athletes. And, just like professional human athletes, they're utilizing their bodies in an extreme way and they need to replenish themselves. So that's what that nutritionist job is designed for, is to look at our cows and how they're performing and to make adjustments in order to keep them healthy. Our cows have a personal chef and dietitian at their beck and call.
Well, they're very lucky, very lucky.
Yeah.
So, as you can see from the role that the nutritionist plays in helping Farmer Karl, dairy farmers have a lot of help on the farm, and everything they do is to ensure that the cows are comfortable and in excellent health, including the choices made about their diet. That's because happy, healthy cows make more milk. And when you have less cows make more milk, you can have a less impact on the environment. We're going to move on to the next topic. We did get a question that's kind of relevant to this section. And the question is, what is a cow's average height and weight?
Yeah, so we primarily milk Holstein cows with the black and white cow everybody's familiar with. They generally mature between 15 and 1,600 pounds. They eat about 120 to 130 pounds of this food every single day. And average height, they're probably a little short. I'm 6 foot and they're a little shorter than me. So I'd say about 5.5 feet tall for the tall ones. Now we do have some breeds that are smaller, Brown Swiss and Ayrshire. They're not as big and don't produce as much milk, but the milk quality can be better. They can have more butter fat or more protein in their milk. They're kind of a novelty cow, and a Jersey might only get up to 900 pounds. And in the cow world, that would be a pretty small cow. I've sold one cow that weighed 2,000 pounds, and that's the heaviest cow we've ever had here on the farm. So 1 ton would be the heaviest cow.
Oh my gosh, they must have eaten a lot of food.
Yeah.
You answered one of our other questions was how many different types of dairy cows are there and what type do you have? So I think we can talk about this more when we actually get down to looking at more of your cows. So as we make our way down there to the barn, we're going to kind of move on, but I have another poll question, and we're going to bring our high school athletes in for this one as well. So this one says, have you ever used chocolate milk after a practice or game to refuel? So if you're an athlete in the classroom, I'm curious if your school or if you've ever heard about using chocolate milk after exercise. What about, so I know Austin we talked about this before, but maybe Micah, or do you use chocolate milk as well then on the football team?
Yes. Lots.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. What about when have you guys always used chocolate milk while you've been with the high school football team?
Yeah, it started last year when we were doing summer workouts and stuff, and
Nice.
just kind of carried, and we stuck with it. We all love it, and it's kind of a nice little treat after workouts too.
For sure. Harley and Reagan, do you guys use any chocolate milk after practice, or what do you like to eat after a practice or game?
When I go home, yes, I drink chocolate milk. But if sometimes we have workouts before the actual sport itself practice, and we don't always have time to refuel with that.
For sure. Yeah, that's one of the hard things about milk is that you got to keep it cold. Do you guys have any other questions as we move on about the cows or Farmer Karl's job that maybe we didn't get to answer while you were here during your tour?
We're good. I think we're good.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe we'll have some more thoughts as we move on to look at the barn a little bit, but I really appreciate those answers. It's so neat to learn about how your football team is using chocolate milk. And I just in general love to hear student athletes prioritizing nutrition. Refueling after an intense practice or game is an important part of kickstarting your recovery. So your body is ready to do it again the next day, which often is the case. Since chocolate milk contains electrolytes lost in sweat, it has high quality protein to repair muscles and carbohydrates to replenish them, it can be a good option for athletes to try, and it's delicious. As a registered dietitian, though, I'm often talking about the nutrition benefits of food like chocolate milk and why it works for athletes. But I also recognize that in addition to the nutrition food provides, people are also concerned about that impact that farming various foods have on the environment, which is why it's important we also talk about that. So the good news I have to share about dairy is that due to innovative farming and feed practices, a gallon of milk in 2017 required 30% less water, 21% less land, and a 19% smaller carbon footprint than it did in 2007. And the dairy industry isn't going to stop there. They have a commitment to achieve greenhouse gas neutrality by 2050. So on this last stop, Farmer Karl is going to show us one of the barns and talk more about the role that dairy farmers are playing to take care of the environment. So I'm going to toss it back over to you, Farmer Karl. Talk to me about where we're at now.
All right, so we're in the cow palace. This is where the milking herd lives. It's a really comfortable, relaxing barn for them. We built it just for them, what the cows wanted. So in the summer, when it gets really hot, we have these great big fans that move a lot of air, keep 10-mile-an-hour wind in here all the time. In the winter, this is a compost bedded pack. So what that is the cows decide where they want to lay, and we bed it with sawdust. So we work with a furniture company who, has sawdust, and when they make the furniture, they have nothing to do with it. So we bed the cows that sawdust. We till it every day with a garden tiller, and it actually heats up and makes a compost, and it actually stays warm. It's a warm bed. So in the winter, it's nice and warm. In the summer, we get to blow the air on and keep it cool. We have sprinklers where the cows eat. So those are on timers and thermostats, so we can keep the cows really cool there. They always have feed available when they want it, but otherwise cows love laying down. A cow will lay down for over 12 hours every day if she's a high producing cow. So when we went to build this barn, we worked with people who know what cows want, how the barn should be built for them, and that's what we did. The best part about this barn is the the cows stay really, really comfortable and really relaxed and a very stress-free life. This composted bedded pack, so once a year we clean this out. We take heavy equipment, clean it out in about 1 day, and it's really good fertilizer. So all those crops that I was showing you earlier, to grow those, we don't buy a bunch of chemical fertilizer. We use what we create here in the barn to fertilize those plants. It's a really self-sustaining system, and we really enjoy it. Now, you won't see this on every farm. There's lots of different ways to house cows. This is the way that we like to do it, and it works well in this area.
That's a really good point, talking about how each farm is a little bit different. I know we talked about that. I was talking with Farmer Karl yesterday, just the different practices that farmers have. So talk to us a little bit about, I mean, I know the compost barn, using that fertilizer. What else do you do on your farm that would be kind of considered a sustainability practice, or that's kind of with the environment in mind?
Yeah, we've done a lot of projects. So one of the things is not overstocking our fields. We've built facilities like this to take the pressure off the fields, keep the grass growing. Cows don't just only come in here. We have pastures for them to go into. When we built this barn, we also got all the animals off of the river. We fenced them off. We planted trees down by the river. So along our river, which we're fortunate to have a river on this farm, we have a 300-foot buffer of trees that protect erosion from entering into the streams and rivers. We're going to be putting solar panels on this barn here actually later this year. So we'll produce enough electricity off these solar panels to run the entire farm. So trying to stay sustainable in that way.
That's a lot. And I don't think people always realize that, consumers care about the environment, but farmers do too. I mean, it's your livelihood and a lot of what you do. And I think you talking about how comfort of the cows is such a big priority. Can you kind of relate that to why that's so important?
Yeah, and it's a twofold situation with why we care about that. One, it drives income for us. The more comfortable and relaxed a cow is, the more productive they are, the more milk they make, and that's really good for generating a profit on the farm. But also, you have to remember this is a multi-generational situation. It's my family here, and we care about the cows. We're dairy farmers, and we give them a lot of attention. We want to see them happy. It's not just financially driven. So that plays a big role in it. It's funny that it must just be ingrained in the dairy farmer's mind that when we decide to do something, when we're going to build something, or we have a new idea, we always think of the cow first. It's just instinctual for us, and it really pays off in the end.
Sure. So let's get back to, we have a question from Tanya. So she asked, how many different types of dairy cows are there? And then what type do you have?
So there are about 7 breeds of dairy cows. 90% of the dairy cows in the country are these black and white ones. They fit the criteria as the most ideal cow because they produce a lot of milk. They're a very good size. There's a good genetic pool to bring into the farm. They're just kind of the all-around athlete. Then there's specific breeds, and one specific breed that we have more than the other smaller breeds are brown Swiss. They're the brown cows. You're not going to see many in here. There's one over here eating, and there's one over there waiting to come into the barn. And they're just a novelty breed that we wanted to have because my mom's from Germany. She was an immigrant here, and that's what they had growing up. And they're really good at producing really high quality cheese. So we have a couple of them for fun. We also think they're the smartest, cleverest cows. And believe it or not, some cow breeds are different in intelligence and cleverness than other breeds. So we really like the brown Swiss. We also have 3 Ayrshires that are here. It's a red breed. A lot of people don't realize that dairy cows can be red. So we have 3 of them here. They're very rare. They're not particularly better at anything else. They're just really pretty cows to have. But there's other breeds. Like I said, there's a total of 7. But the Holstein is going to be the primary dairy breed. And all the cows on this farm are females. So all these ladies, they don't have any bulls roaming around or anything like that. So all the cows that you're seeing are girls.
Sure. And I think yesterday it was really fun to hear you talk about, a lot of your decisions are with the business mind in place. But I loved hearing how you just have some of those different types of cows because it's fun, and it reminds you of
Yeah.
your mom of back home, and that's
Yeah,
all.
if you're going to live and work in the same place, there's certain aspects that you just want to be enjoyable, and so like Shrimpy earlier, we were talking about a preemie calf, newborn, that wouldn't be very special to most people. To us, it's really special, and we take extra care to make sure that this relationship between cows and humans works both ways, and we can all benefit from it. One thing that we do for our cows is we incorporate a lot of new technology. One of the technologies that we have are these collars that they're wearing. If you notice, everybody's got a necklace on, and that's a really high-tech necklace that we invested in a number of years ago. It's a pedometer. It shows you how much the cow walks, how much she moves, how much she lays down. It shows us how much she eats, how much time she spends at the feed bunk consuming feed. And then most importantly, it shows how many times they ruminate. Dairy cows have 4 stomachs. They regurgitate their food and rechew it. And that's a really important process. And by measuring that, we can actually tell how healthy the cow is. And I have an automatic sorting system that if a cow isn't feeling well because she's obviously not eating and ruminating as much, it'll automatically sort her out. And then my job here on the farm, or one of my jobs, is to pay close attention to the cows that aren't feeling well, whether they need to be treated with antibiotics or they just need some extra TLC. So that's my job to make those calls. But that technology has allowed us to give very specific individual care to every cow, because there's 350 of them. It's a lot to take care of, and we're only a medium-sized farm. There's farms with 1,000 cows, and by having this technology, you can still give cows individual attention as they need it.
Sure. So we're getting a couple more questions, and I like that you mentioned the difference between medium and big farms. And I just want to kind of point out that whether it's small, medium, or big, most of the dairy farms in the U.S. are family owned. So I think there's kind of like a bad misconception that it's factory farming or whatever it is, and people see a lot of animals together. But whether it's big or small, my experience working with a lot of farms in the Southeast is that they're primarily family owned.
Yeah, and farms grow with the family that is running it. So, like I said, we have my mom, my brother, and I working here. So there's 3, and my wife. So there's 4 of us working here. So our farm tends to be a little bit bigger to support all these families. Usually, the primary difference between maybe a 1,000 cow farm and our farm is maybe they've got an aunt and uncle that's also on the farm. There's other generations involved, so they grow just to accommodate how big the family is that's farming it. That's usually what the driver is in the growth, is just getting more family members involved.
Sure. Well, we have one more question, and that is, how old is the oldest cow on your farm? And they want you to do some math, and I don't know, maybe I'll toss you an easier question, but they said, and can you guess how many gallons of milk they've provided over their lifespan?
Okay. Yeah. So the oldest cow on the farm is 351. I know her. She's actually a crossbreed. She's a breed that is a mix between the Brown Swiss and the Holstein. She's 10 years old, and she's had 7 calves. And I don't know specifically how much milk that cow gives, but I know that the cow that's given the most milk on our farm has given 250,000 pounds over her life. And if somebody wanted to do the math, they just need to take 250,000 divided by 8.6. That's how much a gallon of milk weighs, and that's how many gallons that cow produced. But 250,000 is the most we've ever gotten out of a cow in her entire lifetime. And when I was young, growing up and just learning how to be a farmer, I think I was in middle school, we had a cow number 37, and I still remember her. She lived to be 17 years old, and that is a very old cow. Cows generally live till naturally they only live till they're about 15 if you let them live out their entire lives. So having a 17-year-old cow, we were really proud of.
Sure. Someone's asking, do you name any of your cows? I mean, I know we talked about Shrimpy. Most of them, I'm assuming you don't.
For simplicity's sake, we use a lot of numbers in order to track and keep records, but we do name a lot of them, especially the Brown Swiss have names. And then there's very special cows that like Shrimpy. We have a cow named 821 that we all call Patience. She comes to the front of the parlor right before she wants to be milked, and she just stands there and waits till the very end. So she presents herself. She's real tame, got a nice little bump on her head, and we do name the special cows. But for simplicity's sake, because it would be really confusing to keep track of all the names, we do use numbers in order to identify most of them.
That makes sense. All right. So I have one final question for both Farmer Karl and our high school athletes. So we're going to bring the high school athletes back on. So I'm going to ask Reagan and Harley. So what was the most surprising thing you learned when you visited the farm in person?
The most surprising thing for me is that the cows are 20 degrees hotter than like us. Yeah, us or like the temperatures. So when they're like in the barn, the fans adjust to the temperatures outside and how the cows are feeling that day.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. What about you, Harley?
I thought it was interesting that the cows were like the little pedometer on their neck, and like Farmer Carl can tell when they're like about to be sick and how much food they consumed, and just in general all about the cow.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, Farmer Carl, your question is, what is something you wish everyone knew about being a dairy farmer?
Well, we're passionate people. We wouldn't do this. This isn't a really high paying job, but we're passionate about dairy farming. We think milk is nature's most nearly perfect food. There's a lot of delicious drinks out there, energy drinks or sodas, but they don't give you anything back. And that's the unique thing about milk is when you drink it, it's delicious and you get a lot of things back, important vitamins and minerals, protein. And not only do you get a great product like milk, you can then turn around, take milk and make a lot of other great products out of it, like cheese and yogurt and ice cream. And we think that that's such a unique and helpful aspect of milk that we just really feel really passionate about it. This is a multi-generational farm. The effort that we put in now isn't just for ourselves, it's for the generations to come. We like supporting our local economy. We like keeping the open spaces open. We're proud to work hand in hand with nature, produce food for the greater good, of our country. So we're really proud of that. We're passionate about milk, and all dairy farmers really are.
That's awesome. And I think a great sentiment to share on National Farmer Day when we talk about just really thinking hard about what goes into making the food that we see on our grocery store shelves. So it was a big treat to get this insider look at what happens on your farm. And it cannot be overstated how much I appreciate our viewers and the questions. And we hope you enjoyed today's tour as much as we did. So I also want to extend an enormous thanks to Karl and his family for giving you this behind the scenes look at their dairy farm today. Farmers do not have a lot of extra time, so this is a big deal. And the work, that you do is incredible. We all learn so much. And to Harley, Austin, Reagan, and Micah, thank you so much for coming to the farm, joining us and sharing with us today. And also good luck in your sports seasons this year. And don't forget that the Dairy Lights is your resource for all things dairy. So visit our website, the latest dairy research, recipe news, and resources. You can also visit the VHSL Sports Nutrition page if you want to learn more about why chocolate milk is a good option for recovery after intense workouts. And don't forget, on our website, if you want to visit a different dairy farm, we've got other dairy farm tours if you're interested in meeting other dairy farm families in the Southeast. So thank you again for joining us. We wish you a dairy good day. That's all for now.